First Contact and Deception. Commander Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck of the ESS Vigilant, watching the massive Kraxan diplomatic vessel approach. Its crystalline structure caught the light of the nearby star, creating rainbow refractions across the hull of her ship. Even after 6 months of diplomatic relations with the alien empire, the sight of their ships still took her breath away. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Admiral James Morrison's gravelly voice came from behind her. Hard to believe something so lovely could belong to such a deceptive species. Sarah turned to face her superior officer, noting the dark circles under his eyes. The past week of intelligence briefings had taken their toll on the entire command staff. "The latest decrypts?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. Morrison handed her a datapad. "Worse than we thought. The Kraxan aren't just studying our defenses. They're mapping them. Every diplomatic meeting, every cultural exchange, every joint military exercise. It's all been reconnaissance." Sarah scrolled through the decoded transmissions, her jaw tightening. The Kraxan Empire had appeared as a blessing when they first arrived, an advanced civilization offering friendship and technological exchange. Their ships had emerged from hyperspace near Pluto, broadcasting peace in a dozen Earth languages. They claimed to have studied humanity for decades, waiting for the right moment to make contact. The truth, as it turned out, was more sinister. They had indeed been studying humanity, but not for friendship. "They think we're primitive," Sarah said, setting down the datapad. "Because we still use projectile weapons in some applications, because we haven't fully converted to antimatter power, because we value diplomatic solutions." Morrison nodded grimly. "Their latest internal communiques refer to us as clever animals who have stumbled upon spaceflight. They see our preference for negotiation as weakness, our diplomatic outreach as desperation." Sarah watched the Kraxan ship dock with the Vigilant's diplomatic bay. The crystalline vessel's surface rippled like liquid glass as it matched velocity. Such beautiful technology in the hands of such arrogant beings. "They don't understand us at all, do they?" she mused. "No," Morrison agreed. "They mistake patience for weakness, restraint for inability. They look at our older technologies and assume we're backwards, never considering we might keep them for a reason." Sarah thought of the classified facilities deep beneath Mars' surface, the weapons Earth's combined military forces had developed but never deployed, the contingency plans that had been in place since humanity first reached for the stars. "How long do we maintain the facade?" she asked. "As long as we can. The president still hopes diplomacy might work, that showing them our true capabilities won't be necessary." Morrison's face hardened. "But if they strike first?" "When," Sarah corrected. "The decrypts make that clear. They're just waiting for what they consider the optimal moment." "When they strike," Morrison amended, "they'll learn why humanity has survived every crisis it's ever faced, why we're still here despite our own worst impulses, why we developed weapons we prayed we'll never use." The diplomatic bay's indicator light turned green, signaling the Kraxan delegation was ready to board. Sarah straightened her uniform and composed her features into a mask of welcoming diplomacy. "Shall we go greet our friends, Admiral?" Morrison gestured for her to lead the way. "Remember, Commander, smile, be gracious, act appropriately impressed by their technology. Let them think us naive. The longer they underestimate us, the more time we have to prepare." As they walked to the diplomatic bay, Sarah reflected on the irony. Humanity had spent centuries learning to choose peace, to seek diplomatic solutions, to rise above its violent past. Now those very achievements were being used against them, interpreted as weakness by a species that understood only dominance. The Kraxan would learn their mistake eventually, but by then, it would be far too late. The massive doors slid open, revealing the towering forms of the Kraxan diplomats. Their crystalline environment suits sparkled under the bay lights, making them look like walking jewels. Sarah stepped forward with her most diplomatic smile. "Welcome aboard the Vigilant," she said warmly. "We're so honored by your continued interest in cultural exchange." The lead Kraxen's translator crystal pulsed as it converted her words. Sarah maintained her smile, all while noting defensive weak points in their environmental suits, calculating blast radius patterns, mapping potential firing solutions. The time for true peace had not yet arrived. But when it did, it would be on humanity's terms, not through submission to would-be conquerors who mistook humanity's highest achievements for its greatest weaknesses. The calm before the storm. Deep beneath the Martian surface, Dr. Elena Rodriguez watched holographic displays flicker with simulated battle scenarios. The secure facility, known only as Deep Hub, housed humanity's most advanced military research and development programs. Today's simulations focused on Kraxen crystal tech vulnerabilities, specifically their supposed indestructibility. "Run it again," she commanded. "Adjust the resonance frequency by 0.03. The AI complied, and Elena watched as the simulated crystalline hull shattered under precisely calibrated sonic attacks. 6 months of studying Kraxen technology had revealed what their arrogant allies never expected. Their supposedly superior tech had fundamental weaknesses that humanity had discovered but carefully kept hidden. Her comm unit chimed. "Dr. Rodriguez, Priority 1 message from Earth Command." Elena's heart rate quickened. Priority 1 meant the situation had escalated. Display. Admiral Morrison's weathered face appeared. "Doctor, how close are we to field implementation? The sonic disruptors are ready for production. We've successfully miniaturized the technology to fighter-scale weapons. But sir, there's something else you need to see." She transmitted the latest test results. Their crystalline tech isn't just vulnerable to sonic attacks. It's susceptible to specific electromagnetic frequencies. We can disable their ships without destroying them. Morrison's expression remained grim. "Good work, but speed up production. The Kraxen are moving faster than we anticipated. They've begun positioning their fleet near our outer colonies, under the guise of joint defense exercises. Naturally." Morrison's laugh was without humor. "They think we're grateful for their protection, that we don't notice their ships are all in perfect strike positions." Elena pulled up the latest intelligence reports. Kraxen fleet movements, diplomatic communications, resource stockpiling, all pointing to imminent action. How long? Days, maybe hours. Their latest diplomatic message included demands they know we won't accept. They're manufacturing an excuse. Elena thought of the massive underground factories, hidden beneath the surfaces of Mars, Luna, and a dozen other bodies throughout the solar system. Facilities that had been building advanced weapons and ships for decades, long before the Kraxen arrived. Humanity had learned from its own bloody history. Peace through strength, but strength kept carefully concealed until needed. The orbital defense platforms. In position, disguised as communication satellites and debris. The Kraxen scans show exactly what we want them to see: an essentially defenseless solar system, protected only by their generous fleet presence. Elena nodded. The platforms contained humanity's most devastating weapons, but they appeared to be nothing more than space junk to Kraxen sensors. Another advantage of maintaining primitive technology. The enemy never looked too closely at it. "Sir," she hesitated, "are we certain this is the only way?" "That diplomacy has failed." Morrison's expression softened slightly. "The President is still trying. But the Kraxen intercepted transmissions we leaked about experimental terraforming technology. They think we're on the verge of a breakthrough that would let us rapidly colonize systems they want for themselves. They won't risk letting us develop that capability. A capability we already have but don't advertise," Elena noted wryly. "Exactly. They're about to start a war to prevent us from developing technology we mastered decades ago." Morrison shook his head. "Their arrogance will be their downfall. Keep your teams on high alert, Doctor. When they strike, we need to be ready to respond instantly." After Morrison signed off, Elena walked through her facility's vast laboratories. Hundreds of scientists and engineers worked on projects the Kraxen couldn't imagine humanity capable of developing. But they all shared the same haunted look. the knowledge that their creations would soon be used to kill. That was the true burden of humanity's path. Not that they couldn't build advanced weapons, but that they chose not to use them except as a last resort. Not that they couldn't fight, but that they desperately wished to avoid it. Their strength lay not in the ability to wage war, but in the wisdom to seek peace first. But the Kraxan had made their choice. They mistook humanity's restraint for weakness, their diplomatic outreach for fear. Soon, they would learn the terrible truth, that humans were not primitive, but prudent, not weak, but waiting, not afraid, but aware of war's true cost. Elena reached her private lab and pulled up the latest weapon designs. The Kraxan's crystal ships were beautiful, but beauty would not save them from the storm that was coming. Humanity had spent centuries learning to choose peace. Now they would remember how to wage war. She only hoped that when the dust settled, they would remember how to choose peace again. Breaking point. The attack began at midnight UTC. Kraxan ships appeared from hyperspace near every major human colony simultaneously. Their crystalline hulls glowed with charged weapons, their formations perfectly positioned for maximum strategic impact. They expected a swift victory against humanity's supposedly primitive defenses. They were wrong. Commander Sarah Chen watched from the ESS Vigilance Bridge as the first Kraxan dreadnought opened fire on New Mars colony. The crystal ship's energy weapons lashed out and met an invisible wall of force 3 kilometers from the colony's dome. Shields holding at 98%, her tactical officer reported calmly. Enemy appears confused by the presence of defensive technology they didn't detect. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. Of course they are. Signal Earth Command. Operation Reluctant Thunder is go. Across the solar system, humanity's hidden defenses awakened. Orbital platforms shed their disguises as debris, revealing banks of weaponry. Underground hangars opened on a dozen worlds and moons, disgorging swarms of fighters and destroyers. The Kraxan's careful intelligence on human military capabilities was rendered obsolete in seconds. Multiple Kraxan ships firing on civilian targets, the comm officer reported. No casualties, all shields holding. Sarah's smile vanished. The Kraxan had chosen to target civilians first, a mistake they would soon regret. Launch fighters. Activate sonic disruptors. Show them why humanity kept certain technologies primitive. Squadrons of Earth fighters emerged from hidden bays in the Vigilance Hull. To Kraxan sensors, they would appear to be simple chemical propulsion craft with basic weaponry. The truth was far different. All squadrons, weapons free, Sarah commanded. Remember your training. Show them what humanity can do when pushed too far. The fighters engaged, and the Kraxan's arrogance turned to confusion. Their sophisticated sensors couldn't track the human ships properly. Their crystal hulls, supposedly impervious to primitive weapons, began to crack and shatter under precisely calibrated sonic attacks. Enemy flagship is attempting to contact us, communications reported. Put them through. Sarah straightened in her command chair as the Kraxan admiral's crystalline form appeared on screen. What treachery is this? The alien demanded. You concealed your true capabilities. We concealed nothing. Sarah replied coldly. You assumed our diplomatic nature meant weakness. You mistook our restraint for inability. That mistake is yours alone. You cannot hope to defeat the might of the Kraxan Empire. We will. The transmission cut off as a sonic pulse shattered the flagship's communication array. Sarah watched dispassionately as cracks spread across the once beautiful crystal hull. All ships, execute Battle Plan Omega, she ordered. Show them exactly what humanity has been holding back. Across the battlefield, human forces revealed their true capabilities. Rail guns mounted on primitive ships accelerated projectiles to velocities that turned the crystalline hulls to dust. EMF pulses disabled Kraxan systems with surgical precision. Weapons the aliens had dismissed as obsolete proved devastatingly effective against their supposedly superior technology. Enemy forces attempting to retreat, Tactical reported. Their hyperspace drives are malfunctioning. Something about our ENF weapons is preventing accurate calculations. Sarah nodded. Dr. Rodriguez's team had predicted that effect. Allow small craft to escape. Disable and capture capital ships where possible. The Kraxan need to understand exactly what they've provoked. The battle lasted less than an hour. When it ended, the mighty Kraxan attack fleet was in ruins. Their surviving ships fled in disarray, carrying word of humanity's true power back to their empire. In her ready room later, Sarah reviewed casualty reports with Admiral Morrison via quantum link. Thanks to their preparations and the enemy's arrogance, human losses were minimal. The Kraxan Empire will retaliate, Morrison warned. This was only their first wave. Let them come, Sarah replied. Now they know we're not the primitive species they imagined. Maybe next time they'll be willing to try actual diplomacy. And if they don't? Sarah looked out her viewport at the debris field of shattered crystal ships. Then they'll learn why humanity spent so long hiding its true capabilities. We don't wage war because we can't. We avoid it because we know exactly how good we are at it. The quantum link chimed with an urgent message. The Kraxan Empire had sent a response to their defeat. Sarah read it and laughed without humor. They're demanding we surrender our secretly developed technology to them as reparations for our deception, she told Morrison. They still don't understand. What's our response? Sarah composed a brief message. The Kraxan Empire has demonstrated it cannot be trusted with humanity's advanced technology. Further aggressive actions will be met with escalating force. We await your choice, true peace, or learning why humans are the reluctant masters of warfare. The reluctant giants. 3 months after the initial attack, the true scale of humanity's military capability became apparent to the galaxy. The Kraxan Empire had launched multiple offensives, each larger than the last. Each had been systematically destroyed by human forces that seemed to possess an endless array of revolutionary weapons and tactics. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood in the command center of Deep Hub, watching holographic displays of the latest battle. Kraxan ships exploded in silence as human vessels executed maneuvers that defied their expectations of primitive technology. Status report, she requested. Phase shift technology performing above expectations, her assistant reported. Enemy weapons pass straight through our ships when activated. They still haven't figured out how we're doing it. Elena nodded. The phase shift devices were just one of many technologies humanity had developed but never deployed until now. Like their sonic disruptors and EMF weapons, they had been kept secret not out of weakness, but wisdom. New intel from the front. A communications officer called out. The Kraxan are deploying their new ultimate weapon, some kind of crystal tech super dreadnought. The holographic display shifted to show a massive vessel emerging from hyperspace. It dwarfed everything around it, its crystalline surface reflecting starlight like a small sun. Elena studied the readings with professional interest. They still don't understand, she murmured. They think bigger is better. That raw power equals victory. Her quantum link chimed. Commander Chen's face appeared, her bridge crew visible behind her. Doctor, are you seeing this? The super dreadnought. Yes, rather impressive, in a brutally obvious way. They're broadcasting on all frequencies, Sarah reported, demanding our immediate surrender or they'll demonstrate its power on Earth itself. Elena checked the weapon readings again and smiled. They've made it entirely of their crystal tech, haven't they? No redundancies, no backup systems, just pure Kraxan engineering. That's what our scans show. Recommendations. Transmit these frequencies to all ships. Elena sent the data. One synchronized sonic pulse should do it. Their arrogance has given us the perfect target. The battle that followed was almost anticlimactic. The massive Kraxan vessel, their ultimate expression of military might, shattered like glass under a coordinated attack from human forces. Its destruction seemed to break something in the Kraxan military hierarchy as well. Reports began flowing in of Kraxan ships refusing to engage human forces. Some even surrendered without fighting, their crews requesting asylum. The empire that had fought to easily conquer humanity was facing something worse than military defeat. They were losing their own people's faith in their superiority. Elena received a priority message from Earth Command. The Kraxan Empire had requested peace talks. Real ones this time, not the facade of diplomacy that had preceded the war. They're finally ready to talk, she told her team. Not because we defeated them, but because we showed them a better way. The war had revealed more than just humanity's hidden military strength. It had shown the galaxy that technological advancement didn't have to mean abandoning wisdom. That being capable of violence didn't mean embracing it. That true power lay not in the ability to destroy, but in the choice not to. In her private lab later, Elena studied the latest data from captured Kraxan ships. Their crystal technology was remarkable in its own way, but flawed by their inability to conceive of failure. Every system was built on the assumption of superiority, with no redundancies, no backup plans. Like their entire society, she mused. They never learned from failure because they never admitted it was possible. Her comm unit chimed. Admiral Morrison's face appeared, looking more tired than ever. Doctor, we need your help with the peace negotiations. The Kraxan are having trouble understanding our terms. Let me guess, they can't comprehend why we're not demanding more concessions, why we're offering to help rebuild. Morrison nodded. They think it's another deception. They can't grasp that we genuinely want peace, not dominance. Then we'll have to show them, Elena replied. The same way we showed them our military strength, through actions, not words. The aftermath of the war would reshape the galaxy's understanding of humanity. They were not the primitive species the Kraxan had first encountered, nor were they the unstoppable military power revealed in the conflict. They were something far more complex, a civilization that had learned to choose peace precisely because they knew the true cost of war. Victory and reflection. 1 year after the war's end, Commander Sarah Chen stood in the newly constructed peace chamber on neutral territory, watching representatives from a dozen alien species file in for the first Galactic Cooperative Council meeting. The chamber itself was a testament to humanity's new approach, built with a combination of human and Kraxan technology, its walls shifting between crystalline transparency and solid stability. Quite a change from last year, Admiral Morrison commented, joining her at the observation window. He'd aged during the war, but his eyes held a new kind of wisdom. Hard to believe the Kraxan are now our strongest advocates for peaceful cooperation, Sarah replied, watching the Kraxan delegation enter. Their once mighty empire had transformed into a republic, their military restructured under joint oversight. They learned the hardest lesson possible, Morrison said. That true strength lies not in the weapons you build, but in knowing when not to use them. Dr. Elena Rodriguez approached them, holding a data tablet. The latest reports from the Joint Research Initiative are promising. The Kraxan's crystal tech combined with our phase shift technology has opened up entirely new possibilities for space exploration. And they're sharing everything. Sarah asked, still somewhat skeptical after their earlier deceptions. Elena nodded. They've learned that cooperation brings greater advances than competition. Their scientists are particularly fascinated by how we developed such advanced technology while maintaining our more primitive systems as backups. The chamber grew quiet as Earth's president took the podium. Her voice carried clearly through the space. 1 year ago, we faced a choice between dominance and cooperation. The war that followed taught us all valuable lessons about the true nature of strength and wisdom. Humanity did not win because our weapons were superior. We prevailed because we understood that victory without purpose is meaningless. Sarah watched the assembled delegates, noting how the other species paid close attention. Humanity's revelation of their hidden capabilities had shocked the galaxy, but it was their restraint in victory that had truly impressed them. The Galactic Cooperative Council represents our commitment to a different path, the President continued. We will share our strengths, learn from our differences, and face challenges together. Humanity's role is not to rule, but to help guide. Not to dominate, but to demonstrate that power and wisdom can coexist. After the session, Sarah found herself in one of the chamber's gardens with a young Kraxan diplomat, one who had been a military officer during the war. "I was there when your forces shattered our super dreadnought," the Kraxan said quietly. "I couldn't understand why you didn't press your advantage, why you offered aid to our damaged ships instead of destroying them." "Because the goal was never destruction," Sarah replied. "We fought because we had to, not because we wanted to. The moment you were willing to talk peace, we were ready to help rebuild." "My people thought that was weakness at first," the diplomat admitted. "Now we understand it was your greatest strength." As Sarah looked out over the garden, she reflected on humanity's journey. They had developed incredible weapons, but chosen to hide them. They had mastered the art of war, but preferred the challenge of peace. They had become the reluctant giants of the galaxy, not through conquest, but through the wisdom to know when force was necessary and when patience would prevail. "The humans have a saying," she told the diplomat. "The true measure of strength lies not in how hard you can strike, but in how many times you choose not to." In the years that followed, humanity would continue to surprise the galaxy. Their hidden technologies were gradually revealed, not as weapons, but as tools for exploration and advancement. Their military capacity remained formidable, but it was their diplomatic skill that truly reshaped galactic society. They became known not as conquerors or warriors, but as mediators and innovators. The species that had concealed its true power out of wisdom rather than weakness. The civilization that had mastered war precisely so they could choose peace. And if new threats arose, if other species mistook their preference for diplomacy as weakness, they would learn what the Kraxan had learned. That humanity's greatest weapon was not their hidden technology or superior tactics, but their understanding of when to use power and when to show mercy. They were the reluctant masters of warfare, and that reluctance was their greatest strength.